Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Bonus Points podcast. Unusually hosted today by me, Ollie Guy, joined as always by Joe Garrett. Let's say hello.
Hello.
He can't host today, guys, because he's got a little bit of a poorly throat, so he can't. He's been a big brave soldier, so he's turned up, but he can't speak too much.
I sound fine. People think that I'm not, but yeah, my throat just hurts a bit when I speak, so I just wanted to, if I could talk 20% less than normal would be lovely.
And also joining us, previous friend of the show, Andy Robertson is back.
Hello. Very nice to be here.
You make it sound like he's not our friend anymore. It's like he used to be our
previously friends. No, now enemy of the show, rival.
Nemesis.
Andy was here before to talk about family. We talked basically after Papers, Please, we talked about accessibility in games with Andy on the show. Also, family gaming database. That's definitely right, isn't it?
That's right. You've got
family
it right.
gaming database, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's correct, yeah. Which Andy is a curator of with his team, and also more recently Ludocene, which is a game discoverability app. And when you were on last time, it was like a bit behind closed doors, a bit Kickstarter-y getting started.
Yeah, we hadn't funded it. We were still trying to hit our target.
And
we did it.
Yeah.
quite soon after I was on, actually. So
not a coincidence.
Exactly.
The bonus points swell the time.
The bonus point army did their thing.
Yeah.
But and then we funded, and I think we got to like 130%. So we had a bit of extra to spend. Yeah, and then I can talk more about it when you want me to.
Well, I think maybe if you give us the elevator pitch now before we get started with Alba.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, so we funded, but then obviously the challenge is then delivering it, and we didn't. You estimate how long things are going to take, and how much time and money you need. So it's never a foregone conclusion, but it's gone really well. So we took that prototype that we had. Everyone who backed it got that immediately. And then we had a whole round of input, and that was kind of quite scary actually, because it was 1,500 people, and it's only a prototype, and we were like, I think it's going to be like, oh, it's rubbish, like we want our money back, because we were clear it's a prototype, but people were really up for it, and they liked the idea, and they could see the kind of the seed of something really good within it, and that's obviously the plan.
And for anyone who may have not seen that previous episode that you were on,
I should explain what it is.
Ludocene. Yes, very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the idea is to help people discover games better than maybe it happens on things like Steam or other platforms, because those platform holders do a relatively good job, but they want to put in your hands games that are profitable, and so they don't always pay attention to the other games you've liked. And so our system says build a deck of cards that represent your gaming tastes, and then we use that, and we really kind of respect those decisions, and then we provide kind of a stream of similar cards based on our kind of basically 5 years of data research that we've been doing to get in front of you some games you'll have heard of, and that's quite a nice reassuring fact. Like if you put some in, you're like, oh, I know these others, and obviously this is doing its job, but a bunch of those you won't have heard of. And so the idea is that is a way to help you find new games that you wouldn't have found otherwise. There's about 1,000 games a month are released, and so it's kind of surfacing stuff that maybe wouldn't get its kind of moment otherwise. And that's that bit everyone's always loved. It's always like, how do we deliver this? Is the UI user interface logical? Is it smooth? But even kind of the tests, which the UI has been a bit not perfect, the feedback has always been like, well, the suggestions are amazing, but you could do some tweaks. But we were really committed to making it playful, so we could have reduced it to just tap some buttons, do a very mechanical thing, and it's a little bit boring, but we really wanted it to be like almost essentially what we've done is make a game. We've realized as we've been doing it. The
maybe the Ludocene spreadsheet wouldn't be as appealing
yes
as the filtering an Excel document. Right, great. And if anyone wants to have a look at that,
yes, you can just now, everyone can access it. It's free for everyone, and you just go to Ludocene, which is ludocene.com. You create an account for free, and away you go. And the one thing that's quite nice that we didn't talk about last time because it didn't exist is you now can have multiple runs. So you have maybe a run for deck builders or combat games or narrative games or builder games. And then those different ones then accumulate your taste into kind of a dashboard. And on the dashboard, we can say, here's all the games you've pinned to tell us that you've liked, and here's all the games that we're currently suggesting. Here's a bunch of games that people who've got your taste also like. Here's the new games we've discovered. So it's much more of a kind of an environment to find games, rather than when we spoke, it was probably just, I was thinking everyone just would have one run and that would be it. But now you can have as many as you like. So that's, great. It's nice.
Awesome. And no pesky AI is my understanding.
Yeah. So it's all there you go. It's all our human research stuff, and that's what's quite nice about sort of game taste. It kind of exists in people. So it doesn't. It's not really online in a way that an AI could go and scrape. And so, creating something, we feel like we're relatively robust to someone coming along and just quickly, using an AI to kind of create an app. They wouldn't have our data because it's about the people that we're working with. And as you know, we've got some experts, and you can put an expert card just to kind of lean into that. So, yes.
Yeah. And the bonus points is represented on there. So every time we do a game and it lands in the top 30 on our list, which I think is the top third, I then add it to my expert card in Ludocene. So anyone can search my full name, my legal name, Oliver Guy, and then they can add it, and the bonus points recommendations will drip in.
That's nice. And they can pin you as a favourite expert, which means whenever they're doing a run, then you'll be top of the expert deck if they pull an expert in.
Yeah. Technically me and Joe. Only my face, but technically we.
The two of you.
I was actually thinking, because what you were saying about how it's kind of hard it's very human for like recommendations is like, I mean, even if you look at our list or games that we know we like, it's super varied. Like it's very rare to be, unless you're someone who's like, okay, I only play the new sports game. There's people that are like that, but most people that play a lot of games have quite a variety. And, there's favorite games that I have that are rhythm games, and then shooter games, and then, just completely narrative driven games as well. And there must be something about each of them that tickles my brain in the right way that I like it. Yeah. But it'd be hard for me to kind of point to an obvious link between them. But someone who has similar tastes to me, there's a good chance that I'll end up lining up with something else that I've never played before, even if it's in, a genre that I wouldn't consider my favorite genre.
Yeah, nice. And then as you make the card, the database actually suggests back games that you might like, which is quite interesting. Or you could pick your own card. It's quite a nice way to discover other games that you might want to try. So nice.
Yeah. Yeah, last thing, just because it is quite mad thing, is I put the podcast games in and it suggested games that I was going to suggest for the podcast. So
the magic worked.
Quite crazy. Yeah, it did work. Anyway, we are here today to talk about Alba, a wildlife adventure. I am going to read the Wikipedia opening, give a synopsis, and then I've got some questions for you, Andy, before we get started. So Alba, a wildlife adventure, is a 2020 open world adventure game developed and published by Us2 Games, released on mobile, Mac, and PC in 2020, and then Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Xboxes, the various Xboxes, in 2021. The game takes place in and around Secarol, a fictional island town in Spain. The protagonist, a girl named Alba Singh, flies from Great Britain to visit her grandparents for a week-long vacation. After helping to rescue a stranded dolphin, she and her friend Inez form a wildlife rescue league. So, Andy, why did you pick this game?
It's very much a go-to game for me. When I'm talking to families, as I often am, I often come across a parent who's a bit reluctant, and it's like, I don't want my kid to play games. They're just going to end up shooting things, and time at the screen, it's not very nourishing. And it's hard, if you've played this game or you see your child playing this game, it's hard not to think, oh, they're learning stuff. And there's a lovely story, as we'll get into with her and her grandparents. But the core element of the game is learning real world birdsong, so that as you walk around, you hear it, and then you find and take pictures in the game. But it also means that child or whoever's playing it is also learning what birds sound like in the real world. And I often hear back from parents who will say, oh, we were in the woods and someone said, oh, it's a chaffinch or something. And they were like, how did you know that? Yeah. And they just, when they discover it, oh, it's this game I'm playing. So it's quite a nice way of kind of reframing what, particularly some adults who don't play many games, what they think of them.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. I remember once someone who I won't name and shame, dad. I was like saying, oh yeah, I'm into video games and stuff. I was talking to their dad, and then they were like, oh, do you think it's cool to shoot cops? And I was like, I'm playing Mario Kart. Like, I'm literally talking about Mario Kart. Like, they're not all like that. They're not all what you think. So I completely get that. Just before we go any more into Alba, you did originally pick Balatro.
Yep.
And then you changed your mind. What was the thinking behind that?
Yeah, I mean, Balatro's a bit of an obvious choice. I was just trying to, that is the game that I've played a lot of. So you can sort of think, well, if I'm honest, that's a game that I could talk a lot about. And I think it's fascinating as a phenomenon. But it gets, Balatro, is it? Or is it Balatro? I don't know how you say it.
I'd always said Balatro.
Yeah, we'll go with you. Yeah. Doesn't need any more promotion or talking about.
True.
Whereas Alba
very true.
Probably does. But equally, Alba's a game I've played loads. And whenever I'm talking to parents or running events with parents where they're trying games, it's always there and it's always a big success. So there is also I've enjoyed it myself. It's not just a game for kids, as I hope we'll find.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of curious about, is because obviously it feels to me like your gaming life in terms of you playing recreationally and your work are kind of so intertwined, probably in a way that it is for me as well. Like, so I'm kind of curious for this game, how much of it is you appreciating this game and what it's doing, and kind of, as you say, as possibly like a gateway for families, and how much is Andy at home playing and just enjoying this game. Like, I guess just for like the choosing it for the podcast, kind of how much is weighted either way.
Yeah, I think I probably came to it because it being a game that's perceived as kind of designed for kids, and it works like that. But then it was one of those crossovers that I started playing it so that I knew what it was like, and then I'm like, oh, it's 2 hours later, and then I sort of, there's a nice progression loop in it, and it was just the right pace for me. I'm not massive, there's not what I do is I pick a game and I'll play it a lot, rather than play a wide range of games, and so it just clicked, and so then it was lovely to come back and just kind of sort of nibble away at it as this kind of story unfolds. And it takes I think the narrative is quite interesting as well. There's quite a lot of good writing, and it doesn't always go to places that you might assume, particularly the kind of clash between this hotel and this wildlife thing. It's not as kind of binary as it could have been. It's not reductive in the way that it could have been. So I think it works for adults as well as kids, or it worked for me. And that's often another sign that if you've got a game, it's like Sesame Street was famously created to work for an adult viewer who'll get a whole bunch of jokes that the kids wouldn't. And so that it's that watching together. And so again, that kind of works. But it's definitely, it's a game I really have loved and have played for a couple of times.
Yeah, sweet. The touching on there, the loop, the developers call it the chillectathon, which is very clever, I suppose. It's quite clever. Joe, could you describe what the gameplay is like for people who may not be watching the video version?
Yeah, sure. So you're, as you kind of said in the Wikipedia article, you're playing as Alba, who is a young girl, British girl, who's visiting her grandparents in a fictional Spanish island. And the main thing you're doing in the gameplay is wandering around the island, looking for animals, taking pictures of them with your phone, and then scanning the animal to kind of identify what it is. It's mostly birds, but there are other animals as well. And then there's also side quests that you're doing as well. So there's an overarching story we'll go into a little bit later, where you're essentially trying to gather a bunch of petitions. And whenever you kind of help out someone on the island, they're always kind of like, oh, go on then, I'll sign your petition. But most of the things that you're doing around the island is basically things that make the island better. So repairing things, putting out food for the birds and like the bird feeders. There's injured animals that you're rescuing. But, it's basically walking up to these things and pressing a button, and then the thing is done. There's not even really mini games for those main things. So it's really about talking to people on the island, seeing opportunities to do these quests, and then also just looking up and trying to identify animals that you've not identified already, and try and keep track of which ones you've scanned and haven't scanned before. And kind of that's kind of where the chillectathon comes in. Can you scan all of the animals?
Yeah, the even though it is going on pressing a button, the rebuilding animation for like building the various like picnic benches and stuff is so good. The way it's kind of like the Lego games. It reminds me of the way they throw all the stuff in. And same with picking up the rubbish off the floor. It really reminds me of the Lego games of all just throwing in, which is pretty flattering comparison for Alba.
Yeah, nice.
And just before we carry on, we both finished. You finished it, right, Joe?
Yep.
I also finished it. Andy, you were saying about final badge. Not too sure if I did actually do that. I think I did.
It's like a leopard or it's a cheetah. It's like
the lynx.
Yeah, lynx. Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely got the photograph of the lynx.
Yeah.
At the end.
So you get a badge, don't you, at the end?
Oh, okay. I didn't realize you got a badge. But yeah, no, I definitely did. I definitely did everything. I got all 50 signatures for the petition as well.
Nice.
So I know that you don't actually have to do that. You can get through with as many as you've got and it would still let you through.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this is an extremely breezy, fun little game with clear goals, but there's also no pressure. Despite the fact that the game is set out in a way that is over the course of a week. And they're always saying oh, you've got till Friday. It's not actually moving in any real time in any way. It will only progress as you do things in the game, which took me a little while to realize because I was they'll say, "Oh, go and meet so-and-so down in the town square." And then I'd be like, well, I want to go and, clean up the forest or take pictures, but I don't want to run out of time. And it probably took me till Wednesday to realize that it's not actually moving in real time.
Yeah, you just choose to end the day whenever you want,
Yeah.
right?
It's nice to you just go home to your grandparents, don't you? And it's like, oh, it's time for tea. And then that triggers the kind of closing out of that day and getting ready for the next one, which I thought was really nice. And it has that kind of storybook feel. And also going back to a family setting, it means that if you have a particular chunk of time, maybe you use it as kind of a bedtime game or before bed. If you've got young kids, you've got a bit of control. You can say, oh, we've done a bit, let's go. And then there's an equal kind of sunsetting and settling down moment. So there's some nice crossovers in terms of how you play in a family.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing is when you go back to visit your grandparents, they'll be like, oh, are you ready to end the day? And then you get the chance of the analog stick to nod or shake your head, which is so charming. And it never got old. Every time I'd be looking around doing all kinds of stuff. Because I really like the art in this game. It's very simple. And the environmental artist from Us 2, they wrote up a Medium blog. And it's the most in-depth making of thing I've seen for something we've done on the show. Because I always look up notes and stuff like that, try and see behind the scenes. This blog is every single thing they made in the game. They've documented it. And they actually said originally that the art style was meant to be much more realistic and more complicated. But once they started putting the buildings in, flat shaded as they are now, it's very cartoony. They were like, oh, actually, it looks really nice. And it kind of looks closer to what we, a child's point of view, which I thought was also a really nice touch. But Joe, what did you think of Alba?
I really liked it. I'll be honest. So one of the things that is constantly coming from the podcast is I like really open games that kind of aren't kind of pulling me by the reins the whole time and give me freedom. And in the opening, I was a little bit worried when you kind of meet your friend Enos and she's like, meet me here, and now you go here. And then it gets to the point where the first time they kind of opened the door and they were like, okay, now go find animals. Off you go. And I was like, oh, okay. And then it got to the point where I was freely going around the island and I looked at the map and I was like, okay, I want to go to this place because I want to go to that place, not because someone's told me to go there and I want to see what animals I'm going to get there. And then you kind of have your main mission, which almost always it'll be telling you, okay, meet me here to do this, obviously main mission. But you can just walk around and then you speak to someone randomly. There wasn't a marker above their head. And they're like, hey, could you help me out? This person is sad and I want to give them an ice cream. Could you go tell them to come over? And there's no big, do a side quest thing. It's oh no, this is just a thing that I've stumbled across. And now I am doing a thing because the person told me to do it. And I'm not following an arrow or a line along the floor or whatever other way that games usually make you navigate the world. I'm actually learning my way around this island. And when it tells me to go to the orange farm, I'm like, okay, I know how to go there because I know how to go there, not because I know how to follow a line on a map or something. And so that side of the game, I really appreciated.
Yeah, I also think we recently did Natsumon, and this is kind of weirdly opposite, but also weirdly adjacent. I don't know if you've played that, Andy.
I've seen it. I've not played it myself.
Yeah, Natsumon like is way more open. It's literally like just do whatever you want. There's barely even objectives in it. There's objectives that are just not pointed out to you. And also Natsumon, what it has over Alba is Natsumon has really good like movement. You can like jump and glide and stuff like that. Whereas in Alba you can't jump. Like you are stuck to the ground.
Did you didn't find the wingsuit and the jetpack?
Didn't find the wingsuit. No. The roller skates.
Oh, right.
Jetpack.
Yeah. It's like, every so often you get like a skipping animation, but apart from that, you're kind of stuck. And I think maybe that's because of it started on phones. So if you're playing on a mobile phone, it's like you're not really going to have loads of buttons to be able to sprint and jump and all the rest of it. And I actually feel like the mobile phone template, it's not full of like microtransactions or anything, but the mobile phone template is really noticeable in this game. And I think like one of the things that really stuck out to me is the game's a lot about taking pictures, but you hold your phone in portrait orientation, even though your TV screen's obviously landscapes. It's like you take a picture and it'll be like the little slither in the middle of the screen, which I thought was pretty interesting.
What platforms did you both play on? I guess, but console, is that right, or PC?
Console. I played on Switch. I played the Switch 1 version on the Switch 2. So it ran great,
same.
Which is good.
Did you use, because on the phone's interesting. I think that's probably how I played it first. Because obviously it says take a picture and the phone's there in that orientation, but also it uses the gyroscope. So you're looking around and you hear it if you've got headphones on because it's 3D audio. And then you're looking around in this kind of AR. And I'm not usually a fan of that kind of stuff, but it was such a good match for the experience. There
was a bit where there was like a bird flying that I was trying to take a picture of, and I was like, the sensitivity doesn't seem fast enough for me to follow it. And so I wonder if it's because they assumed it would be much easier to do if you were actually just trying to use your phone and take a picture of it.
Yeah, I think it is. I don't think it is. And when I've seen kids play it, and often they're not used to sticks and they will struggle a bit, particularly if it's a younger end. But I think the phone was good for that. But equally, that kind of like matching your motion to the real world is quite challenging as well. So I think it can work. But that was part of the novelty when I was getting started with it. That it was kind of built for phone, and then it's come to console, which I think is what it's what you're seeing. I think it works, but it's more of a compromise. It's kind of like fitting something into, like you say, that landscape. And I imagine on Switch you could probably use the gyros. Maybe I hadn't.
Oh, I had it attached to my telly. I don't know.
Yeah,
didn't come
just
out.
Pick
for
up
that.
the whole telly.
There's a few little things in the game as well that I think are, when I was doing them on my analog sticks, you can like tune the radio. Yeah. And I was imagining like, this must be like a touch screen.
Yeah, I think it is.
Probably the same with the nodding and the shaking of the head as well. It's like very much the mobile phone thing. Another thing about the game, I actually really like that it's short and it's relatively simple. Like I always say, every game we do, I'm always like, every game's 20% too long. But this one is like, I think it's just about, like, it's just the right length. You're not going to be hanging around, doing it for absolutely ages. And I managed to 100% everything, maybe just over 2 hours. I think maybe there might have been, you mentioned that ice cream thing, Joe. I definitely didn't do that. But I got all of the petition signatures and I got what I assume is all the animals because I got 50 within the 2 hours. And I actually think there's a lot of space in games more recently, for shorter experiences. People seem to be like way more tuned into shorter experiences. Have you got any other games that are a bit like this, Andy, that you can recommend? Obviously, as you pick this one.
There are kind of loose exploration games. It gets suggested a lot, but A Short Hike is in a similar territory in a very different way. But it works as well for quite a young audience because, again, it's got this very loose touch quest. It's a bit more open. Well, no, they're both open, aren't they? So I think that is quite similar. Then there's also a game which is similar because you're exploring an island, Little Gator Game. Oh yeah, I know the one. Which is really nice. So these three are kind of a bit of a go-to, and I always have them when I'm demoing installed. There's a game called Feather on the Switch, which is you play a bird, but it has a similar sort of thing that it's quite there's less story, but you're just exploring a space. So
I think you definitely, Ollie mentioned it, but I think definitely play probably the newest Natsumon game, because that is probably one you'd add to the list. It would probably be, in terms of for children playing, probably a little bit older than this, not hugely. You're probably looking at, I'd say at least 6 or 7 probably for Natsumon, whereas this could go a little younger, I think. But kind of that sort of similar vibes, and very much on the island and about nature, and it has the daylight cycle, but it's very Japanese. Like, it is a Japanese game, but it's really like Japanese rural simulator game, which is really, for someone who loves Japanese culture, like that was a big part that I really enjoyed, whereas I enjoyed kind of the Spanishness of this one.
I think that is definitely part of the attraction, isn't it? Is there sort of a mission in the Natsume game? How does that, just very quickly,
so there's kind of an so that you're part of, your family is like part of a circus troupe, and the circus is struggling and in debt, and so it kind of culminates with you putting on this circus show. But most of the days are like, hey, you're on your summer holidays. It's like, hey, you're a kid on your summer holidays. Be back by 8 p.m. Like, have fun, And so going off and just exploring, and there's like this little group of friends that you make, these little kids that call themselves detectives. So it's very much kind of trying to, and actually it comes up in the story, it's almost like a nostalgic look at your childhood times and what these kind of endless fun days that you seem to have as a kid, and is hard to relive as an adult.
Those childhood summers, it's such a rich kind of thing, isn't it? Such a strong memory.
Yes, it's cool as well because it's narrated by an adult, so it's like he's like talking back about, which is like just a cool little touch.
Yeah, that's nice.
Anyway, something very opposite, very easy to compare to Natsumon. I think we're going to keep doing it, but the opposite. Natsumon has a very light touch on the kind of wildlife and conservation and the natural world, things like that, whereas this game is really heavy into that. And Andy, you've picked a good audience because you've got 2 vegans on the league today.
Yes.
So
you weren't rooting for the hotel owner then? Is that right?
No, God no, down with the corporations, no way. Joe, normally when it comes to games like that, you point out when things can be quite heavy-handed with like messaging and things like that. What did you think of the wildlife stuff in this?
Well, Andy kind of mentioned it earlier, and it's something that I made a note of as well, is I do like that it, apart from an obvious thing of like, oh, there's rubbish on the beach, which is, I don't think there's anyone who's on the fence about whether that's good or not. But, I guess to kind of lead into the story, that the main plot point of this is this small Spanish town, which seems to be kind of struggling financially. And one of the things that comes up is that a lot of the people that grow up there end up moving away. So it's kind of like an aging population that is left there. And so there's this proposal to build the world's largest luxury hotel, to give an exact quote, on this small island. And it's all this over the top, it looks like the sort of thing you'd see in Dubai. And one of the things that's actually quite interesting is a lot of the townsfolk are torn. A lot of them are immediately like, oh, that seems like a lot, but it would bring in money to the island, and maybe it would mean the kids could stay, and the businesses keep shutting down. And even within your family, like your grandmother's pretty much like, this is a bad idea, as well as Alba. But your granddad is like, oh, actually, it might not be that bad of an idea. Let's kind of consider it. And so I actually kind of enjoyed the fact that, even though ultimately, the people that didn't like it do come around, and that's kind of part of Alba's influence with kind of this petition and one of the main story points. I do like the fact that it isn't so much a cut and dry of like, capitalism is evil and protect the baby turtles, like, because that's a story that's been told a lot, and this one is actually a little bit more subtle with it that I enjoyed.
Because on the side of the hotel, so the people that are in support of it, they're very much like, well, for one, the nature reserve is destroyed, so it's like it's not that good at the moment anyway. Also, it's going to bring in loads of jobs, and it's going to bring in loads of money. And it's kind of like when you hear the mayor saying that, it's a bit like, okay, this guy is like, he's just being, bought. When you start hearing the townspeople say that, it becomes a little bit more like, oh, actually, they are making a pretty good point. And I thought with the story, which by the way, the ending is absolutely mad. I didn't expect it to go like Silent Hill the last 10 minutes. But the story, I did think it was going to come together in a way where like both sides win. Do you know what I mean? And I don't really know how that would have come about, but it's very much like the hotel is bad. We don't need this things. Close them down. That's fine. Nature reserve back. And everyone's like, yippee. But actually, they never got the money that they wanted to come into the island. They never would get the tourism. I don't really know if the ending, I mean, the ending's obviously meant to be painted as good, but in reality, I don't know if it's actually the best ending they could have had.
One of the things is the whole thing is they don't have enough money to repair the nature reserve. And so at the end, they're like, you know what? We don't need the money. We can all, as an island, we will all work together to do it ourselves without the money. So that's probably the closest thing to kind of what you're describing, Ollie.
But they were like, we've got an 8-year-old girl who seems to be able to repair anything for
we need
free.
to harness that power.
We're going to get her.
She could never leave.
We're going to get her in. Yeah.
Also, they're like, oh yeah, no, we can fix up the nature reserve. I was like, I already have. Like, that was one of my missions. I've cleaned all of the benches. I've built bridges. I built like a lookout tower.
Yeah, all the signs have now got all the birds on all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. I think if you're playing it with a younger child, it wherever it lands, it's going to be interesting. But I think it's clear that it's not solved. So I think you like we're reflecting. I think you come away from it and think, well, what would they do? And so you could very much reflect on what's going to happen. Like, is it just going to? And then they created space for that. They could have, like, it would be interesting to sort of go for, like, maybe there was, like, perhaps they could have had a smaller hotel or some sort of middle ground. And some of the conversation does raise that, or perhaps we need to cooperate, or perhaps there's a way for us not to be so, so kind of all or nothing. Yeah, which maybe, I imagine some of that richness is kind of coming in as the project's developed, and the kind of trajectory of it maybe was a bit more set.
Yeah, so, maybe if they had solved it, though, we wouldn't be talking about it, I guess. It's like it's a real life problem. It's a real life problem they're tackling. So I guess they can't just be like, well, I guess we've solved it.
Yeah.
I wonder if they kind of came up with some magical solution, like, oh, we'll just build our own hotel by working hard. That might be like maybe a bit ignorant or insulting to kind of communities that are actually struggling with this in real life. And, the reality is, in most cases, there isn't a simple solution that a little girl could come up with and save a village economy.
Yeah. I think it escapes feeling educational. That was something I'm looking more recently about play is in this space, we often instrumentalize it, like put it to work to do something. And it felt like you can tell when a game is like, this is to teach you this and this. And this was really good in that the play is the bit that's fun. And that's what's doing any work here, is just because it's so lovely to get distracted in this island and to do, find all the creatures and build stuff and just take your time with it. And then the other stuff is kind of weaving through it. And I think that's a big success, that a different version of this could have been, regardless of how kind of heavy handed it was with the kind of where it lands ethically, it could have felt very educational. And I think that's really hard to do, to a game for younger kids that's about a theme that doesn't feel like school. And it never felt like that to me, I think, which is a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Also, it's like the things that the game is teaching you to do, all of your objectives are things that would be good to do in real life. So it's like when you see rubbish, pick it up. When you see an animal in need, you should either help it or at least attempt to get help, which is like,
when you see an ice cream, buy it for someone else.
Yeah. I also liked the fact that it didn't shy away from technology. I think like with games like this, it's very easy to be like, oh, and here you can have my old camera, and you can use. It's like, well, no, because if a kid's going to go out and take pictures of animals, they're going to be using their phone. So why use some old like analog camera? And the fact that you take a picture and then you basically use AI to scan it, or like some algorithm to like scan it, and it will say what the animal is. And I think it'd be very easy to be like, oh, and here's like the book encyclopedia to look through and see what it is. It's like, well, no, like a kid probably would take a picture and use an AI to find out what species it is. Like that's, if they're going to do it, that's what they're going to do. They're not going to go out and with a book and a camera. They are going to use their phone. And so I think that it probably is and if this does inspire any kids to kind of get into kind of amateur wildlife photography, it probably is showing them the way that they would do it.
I like the little
think,
sort of pseudo, because you do have a book of sorts, don't you? I don't know if it's supposed to be.
Yeah, you can reference back to ones you've scanned, but it's just the actual the scanning mechanism is scanning rather than looking through. Yeah,
but I remember seeing that book and like, oh, there's this that you know, in kids' books you have the thing you press and it makes a sound. But of course, and if it was the real book, that same little pressy thing is on every page, poking through every page. Whereas here, every time you turn a page and press it, and it's the sound of the bird. And I thought that was a really nice touch. That kind of it is a familiar object, but it's put to work in a way that's actually way beyond what we usually do. And then you can see. I remember like hearing the sound and then looking at, well, where are these birds found? And then you have this reason to go to that location, and then you're listening and
I think just on that, I think if they were making a game for adults where you played as a child, they would probably do what Joe said and do the like old camera and the old book to try and appeal. But then when you're appealing, with a child, I guess it's more like, well, this is what you're going to have available. This is what you understand. This is how you're going to relate to it. So let's just do it that way rather than trying to be, nostalgic about it. Actually, Andy, what you were just saying about listening for the birds, I think this game has really, really good music. Like all of the little songs that play, all the little jingles and everything else are so good, but like there's just not enough of it. And I understand it so you can hear the birds like you just pointed out, but like that little song that plays every morning when you run into town is like so good, like proper Spanish guitar song. And then also this game has like a bit of spoilers for the end of the game now, turn off now if you're interested in playing this. It has a bit of a like, it's not a sad ending by any means, but it is quite shocking and surprising. And that also had really good music. I don't know if you guys remember, or actually Andy, if you remember what it was like the first time you got to the ending.
I'm trying to remember. I don't remember the ending being a shock because it's been quite a while since I've played it through.
Oh my god!
So
do you know that we're talking about when Alba goes missing?
Yeah,
remember that moment?
Yeah. And then then you have to go, and then you go, don't you control Inez to go and find her? Is that right?
No, you control the granddad.
Oh, the granddad.
The granddad.
Yeah,
and the whole island's on fire.
Yes.
Well, it almost looks black and white because there's all like dust everywhere, and then the music, it's just like a single vocalist, right? Kind of like singing quite a haunting song, and your granddaughter's ran off towards where a fire is, and you're going looking for it. Then you start finding on the floor, like, oh, here's like her hat, or here's her phone, and so you start finding one of her stuff.
Like her shoes.
Scattered on the
It's
floor.
like Silent Hill. You're right.
Yeah. It's like completely foggy. I was like, oh my god, is this game going to end with Alba dying? Like, is that where this is going? Because she runs back into the fire. That's what happens. And and then I was like, I'm playing as like an old man who like you just can't find her. Like you're just an old man, and you're like, how can I possibly do this? Anyway. Turns out she finds the links and everything's fine. But for, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I was like really unexpected. Like this is actually, I can't believe this is actually happening in this game. And actually was really impressive. I didn't realize how much I had grown an attachment to Alba until that had happened. And I was like, oh, this is actually really sad and stressful looking. I can't believe you don't remember, Andy. It was mad.
I do. Now you described it, I do. But I think I played it really, really slowly. And then this bit is actually quite short. And then I carried on playing afterwards because of the stuff you can then mop up. So now you've talked about it, I do. And I remember the kind of switch of control of the player. And there's something, this is very different, but like in The Last of Us, when you are, is this spoilers? when you're, when you can start controlling Ellie for the first time.
Yeah.
In the first game. Yeah. It's like, oh, because you're so situated in a character that as much as kind of the visual change, there's that I've lost, there's a kind of a double loss. You've kind of lost your sense of where you're situated in the world. I remember that. That was quite powerful.
I think that's a very effective little thing that games do when you suddenly change character. It works on me every single time. It's a really good feeling of like loss of control, being like, oh God, what am I going to do now? Like, where's my little skipping character that I've been so used to for the last 2 hours? It is
also. How often do you play as a granddad? It's such a rare thing, to be like a worried granddad, who's meant to be, looking after his granddaughter and thinks she'd ran off to the fire. Like you kind of even though he's not really expressing it, you're controlling it, but you kind of feel his panic, or maybe it's just my panic of like, it's, must have been the most stressful situation in the world for him, and he's not very fast, just going looking for her.
Yeah, I remember, and you're finding items, aren't you? Which is kind of like the trail you're following. Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah, and I like running into people that are, either have or haven't seen her along the way.
Yeah. But I didn't remember. It went black. Did it go black and white? Is that what you said? I like feel like I should.
Almost.
It goes because of all like the smoke,
yeah.
I guess, or whatever. It goes really kind of foggy and like almost like the saturation goes way down. And considering the saturation's at like 110% normally, this bright, colourful island that you're basically only ever seeing in the day in the sunshine, to be going around the same environment that you know so well, but seeing it in such a different way. Like the contrast, I think, is what made it so extreme. Like this, you could look up this scene in isolation, you'll be like, what are they on about? But the contrast to the rest of the game is what made it seem so shocking.
They're not putting that in the trailer.
I played it last night, so it's like super fresh in my mind.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. Yeah, well, because at the end of the game for me, I remember it, the resolution, but then I just had this instinct of like, I didn't want it to end. I just wanted to stay, and what else is there to do? And I think you have a free rein to just carry on mopping up any things you've not found, and there's this last thing that you can find. I think so. Probably, I think I extended it quite a bit because I didn't want it to kind of end, basically.
Yeah, I got a little bit tired of the objectives being like, you have 10 things to do, 9 of them are really easy and 1 of them is really hard. Like, as in, like, you got to find 9 bits of litter to pick up, and 9 of them you got to find 10, sorry, and then 9 of them will be on the path in front of you, and then 1 of them will be like, I just would never find it.
Yeah.
Or like, you've got to fix 14 things in the nature reserve, and I'll do 13, and I'll be like, I've no idea where the final one is. And it was that, and then also when I noticed that a lot of the animals, obviously this is an indie game, small team, etc., etc., the animals would just go between 2 points. And kind of when I started to notice these things, I was like, oh no, I'm kind of seeing the seams in this, and like almost felt like I was robbing myself of the experience a little bit. I've fully moved into negatives now, by the way. You couldn't tell. I've got a few, unless you guys have got anything else you want to quickly shout out.
I think what I like is that it's very good at when I played it was very good at distracting me. Like, I'd have a list of things to do. Mm-hmm. I'd be going somewhere and I'd hear maybe a bird, or I'd maybe bump into someone, and then I'd do something else and kind of forget, And so actually the list, the kind of to-do list didn't really drive me. I think I just wanted to find lots of different birds. Because I remember there was you had to walk someone's dog or find someone's dog. And so those kind of distractions I really sort of lent into. And I think probably, like you said, you did it in a couple of hours. I think it's probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 hours I just spent, really took my time. And there's certain locations that really stick in my head. Like there's a castle that you kind of restore, isn't there, up on the hill? And there's particular routes up to it. And I remember like doing the castle, but also investigating. There's quite a lot of different routes around the place, and you can kind of squeeze into some of the edge areas. So I never managed to actually get completely stuck, but you can be like, oh, I've kind of wiggled my way into this area to see what's here, and now I'm going to have to go back the same way because maybe I wasn't supposed to do that. So that the kind of edges, I think some of the seams were quite nice actually, in a different way.
I did also have a conversation in the game up at the church with these 2 old people that were talking about their friend that died, which I thought was surprisingly mature for, I mean, it's 2 old people and they're like, oh, our friend's with us, or like we're on holiday together. And I was like, oh, that's, a nice way to open that conversation up with maybe someone who was younger than yourself. That's not like, too heavy-handed.
Yeah, no, there's quite a bit of that. And I think, because the first time you go to the island, you're a bit younger, aren't you?
Yeah.
And then you come back quite quickly. And so there's interesting kind of this setting up of time passing, and then you're reuniting or making friends with Inez, and that first little island loop where you save the dolphin, it introduces, it kind of signposts, I think, that this is not just going to be a straightforward kind of march to victory. And it I think follows through on that. Some of the nuance of the conversations around the hotel, but some of the people you meet have, challenging life situations that, again, I think it's handled appropriately. But if you wanted to, if you're a parent playing with a child, then it opens up that topic in a way that not many other things do, and certainly different to say sitting down like, let's talk about what happens when you die.
Yeah, definitely.
You could be playing this and be like, oh, you can have this really loose conversation as you're kind of traveling together through the space, which could be really useful. And particularly if you have got some loss in your family, then this can actually be a really powerful way to deal with it. These sorts of spaces that games create.
Yeah, it's really nice to put that. God, I feel really bad for laying into the game now. You've just said that. Have you got anything you want to add, Joe?
I just got two little things that I liked. I just want to point out before you ruin the mood, Ollie.
Take it apart. Take it down.
One is 10 out of 10 pause menu. Every time you pause, the camera just like wherever you are in the island, it like pulls up to like the sky, and then like the menus goes out. It just like that wasn't like a nothing thing for them to add in, and like that, I guess that's one thing to point to kind of speak to kind of some of the polish and the flair of the game. Lovely pause menu. Another one is that there's a mission where I can't remember exactly what it is, but you got to fix something, and the mission's called "Fix Up, Look Sharp," which was, it just made me as a weird Dizzy Rascal reference in Alba. I wasn't see coming. So I
wonder, there's probably other references we've maybe missed.
Yeah, I think kind of what you were talking about earlier, Andy, about like something for the parents as well, I guess. So yeah, that just stood out to me as well. So they're the two things I wanted to point to in particular.
They are the developers are based in London, so I guess they're pulling from British culture. But I don't know about you guys. My game was so buggy and laggy. I was getting so many bugs, like parts where Alba was like glitching between being in the world and being out of it. So like slipping between geometry. And also another bug I got so many times is the objective markers and all that, just like they would really struggle to update. So like I would do something and then it would meant to come up with the progress bar, and the progress bar like just wouldn't appear. Or then it would appear and then do like all 9 at once, like rush through it. Or when you're using the camera and you can't move, if someone bangs into you, they'll kind of slide you along and it will like glitch the camera out. And then also in the beginning of cutscenes, they would just kind of like, all the characters would like kind of T-pose and flick around to like get to where they need to be. I like found that really noticeable. And I was just like, yeah, like nothing that actually broke the game, but it was just like surprisingly buggy for something that was as simple as it was. I don't know if that was just...
What was that on? Did you say PlayStation?
Switch.
What did you play on?
Switch.
On Switch.
So that I had almost none of that. Like that's all. Like so, I had a few times. I got a video of it of like a bird was like flying without a flying animation, which I just quite enjoyed. It was just like the equivalent of a bird T-pose fly. So I had that. And then for the progress for like quest, the markers always seemed fine, but I always found they were always like a bit behind. Like they would always be like. Because it would often be like you're doing several things in a row, like you repair 3 things and it'd be saying you repaired 4, then 5, then 6, and then you completed it. And so they all kind of get a bit caught up there. But yeah, in terms of those other kind of things that you mentioned, those other kind of visual in-world things, I didn't encounter any of that, and it looked fine for me. So maybe I was just lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it probably is designed for smartphone, and I wonder how it came to console. I imagine it was probably a publisher.
It was a different. They partnered with a different studio to do the ports. I can't remember. I don't have the name at hand of the one they used.
No, I don't either. But they
one thing I found going from phone to Switch was the text size. Like it was okay on a phone. And it sized itself quite well, but some of the like missions are tiny on Switch because they're just in the right corner. And even if you make the text big, I think there is some accessibility settings, but I still sort of struggle to read some of that.
Yeah.
But I think the map was pretty good because I like maps that show you your orientation while the map's up.
Yeah, same.
If I'm remembering it correctly, I think you could do a bit of movement and you could see.
I'm going this way, and where you're facing.
Yeah, which was kind of useful. But I think some of that, the finessing of it into a console screen, I kind of lost a little bit of that kind of attention to detail. Maybe because it's in the hands of a second team, and and probably these things are challenging to make profitable. So
of course,
I'm sure some of the decisions are,
Yeah, the other thing that I've got was that I felt like you use the D-pad to select all of your different, like your map and your phone. I just couldn't I felt like all of them were on the wrong one. I felt like every single D-pad option was in the place I wasn't expecting it to be. So in the game, up is your objective and down is your map, and then right is your camera and left is the book. But I kind of felt like down should be the camera. I don't know why, but every time I want to get my camera out, I'd end up getting the map up. And every time I would go to try and get my map up, I'd open the objective. So like I've recorded the gameplay footage for this, and so much of it is me changing between like the objective and the map. I don't know why. There's
got to be another game you played. There's got to be another game you played where it was like that.
Yeah,
it's locked it in. Yep.
Yeah, we just did
very similar game, Death Stranding.
Yeah, well, we just did that last, so maybe that was just me. But I was like, I can't get the hang of where any of these options are at all.
I did have a similar thing of I often find that I feel like I'm always getting it wrong.
Yeah.
But again, I think a little bit of that is how, again, going from the kind of the interface on the phone is much smoother, because obviously you're just using the screen interactions and just tapping the things to access them, and you're on a phone already, so it kind of has a language that fits.
Yeah.
And then they've translated that too. But yeah, it's a shame. I imagine you didn't have a way to change the buttons to be what you wanted, which would be a way to solve that, obviously.
Yeah.
I did have the same thing of like, I never quite got it right.
I guess if you're only playing for 2 hours as well, Ollie, like if you played it for 12, eventually that muscle memory would have kicked in, but I guess you probably just didn't quite play it long enough to get that by default in your brain.
Yeah, also it's like a 0.1% knock against the game. Like it really is the tiniest. It's really like no reason to really like, pile on the game. I actually have one other negative, which is that I think it's a shame that they don't really go into detail about the animals. Like even like one or two sentences about the animals. They kind of just have the Latin text, the Latin name, and then that's it. I don't know if maybe I missed it because it was in the book, but when you scan an animal, it just says what it is, and then that's kind of it. And I feel like that's a shame to not just give us a little bit of flavor about, a little bit of context about why we might be seeing this animal in the position it's in. And what I was thinking about was like Pokemon Red in the Pokedex had a line for every single Pokemon, and there was 150 of them, and they were in like a 1 kilobyte file or whatever. And in this game, I just thought like, oh, it's such a shame they didn't just say like, oh, the seagull eats this thing and it lives here, and that would have been a nice little touch, I think. But there's only 50 of them.
They had a line of where they are. I don't remember if there were much more kind of flavor text than that, because if you go to the book first, you hear them and it gives you an idea of the habitat, so then you know where to go.
Yeah.
But it would be nice. But again, I'm not here to defend the game. I think these are good points. But you could also get that wrong and lean into it too much, and it goes then into this kind of educational,
true,
sort of direction. It'd be a nice kind of, you have a book out on your lap maybe, or you could augment that with some, if you were doing it as a adult and a child.
Yeah, true. Well, that's all my negatives, guys. Have you got anything, Joe? Have you got any reason to lay into this game, or
just positive vibes from my end, Ollie?
Take shots.
Nice.
Alba taking strains.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the thing, and we'll get to it when we end up putting it on the list, is when compared to other games, is the game is so simple, and I think and while I can enjoy a simple game, I think there's probably like a ceiling to my enjoyment of a simple game compared to a game that's, it has more complexity, it was trying to push the boundary further. And so it's not a knock against the game for it being simple. That's actually a positive. But, for me, it means it's never going to compete with like Elden Ring, like it's just a different kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Unless, Andy, have you got anything? You got any knocks against it?
Yeah, negatives.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see some better accessibility options when it came to Switch, in terms of some of the navigation aids. And text size, which is, I know it's difficult to do at the end of a project because everything's kind of locked in. So if I'd been around when they were doing it, I'd say get that in straight away, because it will be a barrier. So some younger players, or if you have a visual impairment or barrier in some way, then you wouldn't be able to play on your own. You'd have to get someone else to tell you, or I mean, the Switch is quite good though. It has a zoom in. If you can double press the home button and you can enlarge it.
Really?
Which actually, as my eyes are getting older, I'm using more. Yeah, it's like a, and then you can set the zoom and it will stay in that zoom until you come back out again. So you can get around it, but it's not the same as having those settings sort of built into the game.
Yeah, of course.
But again, it'll probably be a bit of a cost thing.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember that when you said earlier, was there a badge for that last thing? I think maybe there isn't. Because I did have a thing like, I did everything, and I felt like there wasn't a full stop at the end. Like it felt like it needed a final flourish once you had done everything. I was like waiting for that. I think you do get something. Obviously, you get the picture of the.
I think that there's more than 50 animals. I think there's like 61 animals.
Really?
Once you reach 50,
Yeah.
they keep just that objective keeps. They keep adding more to it. So I think, because I got I got to the point where I had almost all of them, but not all of them, which is kind of a hard situation where it's like, I have 3 more and the whole, I don't know where.
Yeah.
So, I probably like forgot to scan a donkey or something obvious.
Maybe the links being my 50th kind of tricked me into thinking, well, that's done. Like it's the big last one.
I think that's what it was. So there probably was something at the end, but I don't think either of us saw it, but I think I got close.
Before we rank this on the list, would you like to hear about, or do you already know about, Alba's Forest?
No, I don't think I do.
Oh my God. Well, Alba's Forest is basically a charity where every time they sell a copy of this game, they plant a tree.
Oh, right.
And just before the recording of this, they have passed 1 million trees.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Wow.
They've sold 1 million copies of the game.
They've sold 1 million copies of the game.
I guess between, Apple Arcade, Game Pass, selling it, Switch, blah, blah, it's on every platform, it's on everything. So yeah, it just planted 1 million trees.
That's great.
Yeah,
nice.
So good for them. I will link that. I had a few facts from that insane behind the scenes write up. I will link it in the show notes because it's definitely worth scrolling through. Like one of the things.
Also. Sorry, I was just going to say, just while we're on them, so I didn't realize is that they made Monument Valley, like the Monument Valley games. I didn't realize it was the same developer until researching them, which was. So
they know what they.
I wouldn't say it's a surprise, but I didn't know of them really until now, and hadn't ever looked into.
Yeah,
them.
They made Monument Valley, Assemble with Care, and Desta: The Memories Between, which I think are all like iPhone first mobile games.
That's like Apple Arcade, and then they're doing like Netflix games. I think they're doing now.
Sweet, right? So, shall we put it on the list?
Let's.
Yeah, put it on the list.
Did you know we have a Patreon? Maybe you're unsure what that is.
Patreon allows you to support us directly, and in return, you get exclusive stuff, access to our Discord server, behind-the-scenes content, and an exclusive podcast series.
Your support means we can up our production and continue making fun videos. You can join us at patreon.com/the bonus points. And it has a free trial too.
Woohoo!
Okay, so Alba, a wildlife adventure, is going to be the 90th game that we add onto this list. Before we get started, Andy, is there anything about the list that sticks out to you in our rankings?
Elite's very low. 72.
Have you played it recently?
Yeah.
We played it.
It probably isn't.
A couple of years ago now.
And you're saying it's a list about enjoyment, so that's probably makes sense.
Yeah, it was like I think I appreciated it, but I had about 10 runs at trying to land on another planet, and I couldn't even land it. So we played the NES version, didn't we, Joe?
We did. Well, we tried other versions first, and then realized that we'd have to learn what every key on a keyboard does in order to play it, and we had 2 weeks to like to do this, and we realized that doing the NES version was probably the best way for us to see more of the game. But it kind of goes down to kind of what we say is, we ignore the influence as much as we can, because the influence of Elite is seen wide, and the ambition of this game for that game when it was released is bonkers. Hardly any other games are more ambitious for the time that they were released than Elite. But we did kind of have to rank it by our enjoyment of that time playing it. And so then it was kind of, I guess it was just a little bit harder for it to compete against some modern games. It's just kind of one of the unfair elements of the list structure that we ended up going with.
Yeah, well, but I think a list shouldn't be fair. I quite like it.
Yeah, you kind of got to pick a lane and stick with it, Because
yeah. But it means that you look at this list and we learn about you guys. So because you obviously like long, big story, and you like stories. The Last of Us. And
I think. Do you know what's weird? Is before we, not to go too into the bonus, but before we started it, I was like, I think all video game stories are rubbish, and I loved video game. I really loved arcade games. That's what that's what I played through. I did game design at university and stuff like that, and it's always been arcade games for me, like Street Fighter, stuff like that. And I was always like, game narrative, like I don't care, like it's going to be something stupid. And actually, I've been proven wrong multiple times through doing this. So I was like, oh, the story is actually really good.
When the second game we do is Disco Elysium.
My God.
And that stayed
incredible.
up in the top 5 the entire time, moving up and down. But it's always stayed up top. Don't know if that's one you've played, Andy.
I've dipped into it, but it's never clicked for me. But I'm kind of the opposite, I guess. I struggle for time a bit, and so if I know it's long, it has to really grab me. So I really like The Last of Us, both of those games, and that I knew they were quite. People probably think they're short. For me, those are quite long games.
They are long.
The second one in particular is maybe a bit too long.
Yeah, outstayed its welcome a bit, but which means that the longer the game is, the better it has to kind of quickly convince me, or maybe if I know someone who can tell me why I'd like it, it's that kind of stuff. So that's why these lists are really good, because you get to hear not just marking out of 10, but like, well, how does this sit in your gameplay and in your lives of your available time and tastes and all that kind of stuff, which is, I think, it's fascinating. So it feels very Ludocene. Looking through this, I'm like,
Sweet. All right, so Joe, I'm putting you first. Where would you like to place Alba? What area roughly would you rank Alba in this list?
Okay. It's so hard, because I did have so few negatives for the game, but as what I was saying though, it's just this sort of, I guess, I don't know if like casual game, if that's seen as like a negative, or chill game, or whatever. It's a genre that I don't play regularly unless there is some sort of hook that is just tickling my brain in the right way. And I think for this one, it had that a bit with the openness. Like, I think I played this more similar to how you played it, Andy, where I wasn't looking at a list and going through. I was wandering around the island and just exploring it. And I think I kind of had one in-world day where I really loved that. But I think in that day I'd kind of seen most of the island in that one day when I kind of went and wandered. And then for the rest of the time, because I'd kind of seen most of it and took the pictures of most of the kind of the random encounters with animals that I was finding, I was then kind of, the only thing left to do, because I wanted to see where the story was going, was to kind of go through that kind of more checklist way of playing, because I'd done most of the open stuff that I could naturally come across. And that kind of maybe knocked it down a little bit underneath. So I think I'd probably... I guess I'd probably be maybe looking at kind of around sort of like the 60 to 70 range, I guess.
Whoa.
That's low.
Yeah.
That is low. That's way lower than I would have.
But I mean, I'm looking at some of the other games around there, like Super Metroid, like Warcraft 2, like even Papers, Please, even though kind of I had some struggles with that game, I think they're all games that are probably going to leave a little bit more of an impact with me with Alba than Alba did. I think maybe if I was, playing it through with one of my nieces or kind of had that sort of experience, I think maybe then it would have created a bit more of an emotional connection. But I guess if I had to kind of put one word on it, it would be like pleasant. And like pleasant is a really positive emotion, or at least description. But like I think pleasant doesn't stay with you long term, I think, compared to other emotions maybe.
Yeah, I can understand I can understand that. I think it's interesting, isn't it? Because it's probably not aimed at people our age, really. It's probably, I think when they're making it, they are thinking of a younger player. And so if we come at it of just how does it sit for us as adults without a child in view, we can kind of connect to it. We remember our own childhoods, but that's always going to be a bit of a distance. So the strength of the experience, I think, is found in the hands of a young player. And that's not what this list is.
Yeah.
So I think I could see how it would be if you were thinking about that. If that was a factor, I think you could argue for it to be a lot higher, but I don't think that is. It's for you guys. How does it sit?
And just to be clear for the format of the list, it's just all I'm basing on is my personal enjoyment. I'm not ranking it as its value of a game or anything other than the time that I spent playing it over the last month. And then the other things, it keeps coming up, as kind of Ollie predicted, is I can't help directly compare it to Natsumon because it's so similar in so many ways. And Natsumon's at 28. And I was the one out of the two of us that was hotter on it as well, wanting it higher up. And I think it's just that's very similar vibe and type of gameplay, but just an extra level of openness and exploration. Once again, kind of finding animals and things, and you're finding fossils and stuff, but just the extra complexity of being able to kind of jump and climb and glide, as well as this kind of larger world where it's still realistic, but maybe some aspects are a little bit more fanciful in terms of you're finding caves under waterfalls and things, and that style of
ghost. There's a ghost as well.
There's a
don't forget there's a ghost.
Yeah, it's much more similar. Like the way we always described it was like a non-combat form of Breath of the Wild, and there's a lot of direct parallel. So like instead of Korok seeds, there's like this ghost girl that you find, and kind of have these very light little challenges. And I think those carrots on the end of the stick for what I was finding when exploring made me enjoy it more, as well as, for me, a little bit more of a compelling location, partly due to the scale and the variety of it. And so I think if I hadn't done Natsumon, I think maybe for me personally, Alba would have fared better. But we did Natsumon not that long ago, and so I can't help but directly compare them.
I think that's fair enough. However, I'm going to throw a spanner in the works here and say I would definitely put it way higher than that. I'm thinking, like, also comparing it to Natsumon, I actually think Alba, I liked the structure of it. I liked having objectives to do. I think it's got a really good message, has a lot of good heart. And even though it is buggy, like, you can tell they're doing it for the right reasons. The game's made for the right reasons.
A million trees.
It's such a
million trees.
A million trees? A million trees? A million trees as well.
A million trees that low?
Yeah. And also, like, I just think I had 2 hours with it. It wasn't very long, but it was a good 2 hours. It was good fun. I came away from it thinking I could recommend this game to other people, especially, like, for example, my fiance doesn't really play games. She would love this. So, like, there's another good, not necessarily a child, but someone who's not really experienced with games. This is also good for them. So from that angle, it's like, this is something I could see myself playing through again. But with her, because especially she loves birds as well, so it's like a double whammy.
Yeah.
So
I think.
Go on. All I was going to say was, I think Natsumon is better. It's a better game, and it's more ambitious. And I'm assuming it probably had a bit more money behind it, and all the rest of it. But I wonder if I did actually enjoy Alba more. That shorter period, I really enjoyed those two. I sat there and smashed it, as I said. I just played through it. I thought it was really, really good fun. So I would move, maybe not as high as Natsumon, but definitely not as low as 60. I'm thinking more like around Edith Finch, Indica, these kind of narrative games where I kind of follow a path. That's what I did in this game. So I like this one. So I would say more up in the 30s.
Yeah, I think it's easy to underestimate its connection to the real world in terms of this is real wildlife that you're dealing with. And that kind of back and forth, I guess, again, it's a bit of a younger player thing, but the fact that it's doing something unusual because it's gone to the length of getting the bird sounds right and the habitats right. Mm-hmm. And then it's not only done that, but it's done it in a way which doesn't feel educational and kind of exists in this space, which feels like a pretty well delivered game. I think that makes it stand out for me. And that, particularly if people don't play games, that's such a good hook. Whether it's a parent of a child or just an adult themselves, of like, oh, these are really, there's a real, you will learn lots of bird call in playing this game.
Yeah. Another thing that you touched on earlier that I always talk about whenever we do these episodes is like, I really like games that have good forward momentum, and like it's propulsive, and it's almost like you can't put it down because it's like always asking something of you that is, in sight. It's always something that you can do easily. You can see it. It's not impossible. And I think this game also has really good forward momentum as well. It's always pulling you through and like giving you an objective that has 6 things to do. And it's like, okay, well, I can do that. It's not like having, it's not going to take you very long to, put 6 things in the bin. You do it, then you get your petition ticked. It's like, great. And then as soon as you do it, it'll give you another thing to do straight away, which I also really like as well.
I did also like with that, one of the things I appreciate is there's a lot of the times when you're doing a thing on the island, and it will just come up like you'll fix something or you'll help something, and it'll come up with like a little heart. But it's like, that's it. Like, it's not even a side quest. It's just like, you put away people's washing. There's like, people have washing lines everywhere, and you put their washing away, and it comes up with a little heart.
Strange.
Which is really funny. But also it's I like the fact, it's something that's come up before in the podcast. Like, I like the fact when you have a reward that isn't experience or isn't even like progress, it's like you did a thing and that's good in its own right. Like it doesn't have to be, tickling our brains for progression and like that type of thing. Like, and I did actually appreciate when I did that, because my first assumption is, I got like a heart. Like, what does that mean? I was like, oh, nothing. I did a nice thing, because doing a nice thing is a reward into itself.
So where are we then?
So I mean, it's
on the list.
It's because I can't, like, any of my arguments isn't going to be bringing the game down, because it isn't like I don't have a, not that I'd want to. I don't have a bucket full of negatives to say, oh, it should be lower because it's worse because of this. Like the only arguments I could do is from wherever you want to put it, is probably to like big up the other games that you would be putting it above, and to kind of point out why like I had, for me, a better experience in that time. But that would be a very laborious process. Like it's quite rare to have this wide of a disparity. So I'm kind of not sure the best way to go.
It's
around
a hard one,
this.
isn't it? Because it's such. I think, but it's such its own thing. Like you're not going to get another game like Alba come along and be like, oh, that was quite similar. So, and again, it kind of stands separate. But like, there's amazing. So, like, how could you put it above like Outer Wilds? Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
Outer Wilds. I don't know. We didn't. We didn't love Outer Wilds as much as a lot of people. We did enjoy it, but a lot of people are really mad about it, and we were like hot on it, but not like this is the best thing ever made. Obviously, it would be at the top of the list, right? It's down at 33. I think I had more fun with Alba than I had with Edith Finch. A lot of the Edith Finch, the things that people really enjoy about it didn't really work on me. Like I thought it was quite silly and it didn't really resonate with me, which is why it's down at 39. I would definitely put Alba above that. I think I'd struggle with Indica, because Indica is really special. I don't know if you've played that.
I have watched quite a bit of it, but
that's short.
But it feels in that same territory, that it's related to something real in the real world. Obviously, it's dealing with it very differently. But it's got, sort
of much more fantastical.
But it's playing with that relationship with the real, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So these three do feel like they're kind of in a similar territory.
Yeah, and of those three, I would put Indica, then I'd put Alba, then I'd put Edith Finch. Over to you, Joseph Garrett.
What about the Forgotten City, which is at 44?
It's too high.
You think the Forgotten City's too high?
Yeah, it was one of the first games we did, and it's kind of hung on. And
if it clicks for you, it's going to be quite hard work. I think it depends if you've got that sort of brain that you want to unravel and try, like looping. So
sometimes it's like feels like we're comparing our favourite colours. I'm trying to find reasons to say
really
why blue is better than yellow.
But it's so green.
Yes, so true. That's so true. I think, look, Alba is nicely nestled with its likeness, its liked friends, its little sort of fantasy, realistic, narrative-driven. Hopefully a good message.
Yeah, so let me have Edith Finch above it, just because. Okay. Just because I'm the same, because like Outer Wilds, people have Edith Finch is a lot of people's favorite games, which it isn't for me. But for me, what I loved about the game is how interestingly it used the video game genre and some of the stuff it does with the variety for the way that you control games and the way that the gameplay directly ties in to the little stories that it's using. I think is kind of rare for I think games to kind of use the medium so directly in that way, and I think Edith Finch is a great example of that. And I think control wise, at least on the platforms that I played it on, Alba was maybe a little bit more traditional. I guess so. So that would be my argument for why Edith Finch could maybe go ahead of it.
Well, I'm just happy that it went up 20 places higher than it originally was. So I'm going to just leave it at that, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think so. Congratulations then to Alba, which has landed in 40 of our list of now 90 games. Let me quickly just say what's coming up.
Do you want to just kind of, for audio listeners, just read
for audio
got
listeners. Yeah, of
get an idea of how it's
I'm
settled.
I'm not used to hosting. I'm so not used to it. Okay, so Alba's in 40, which puts Dead Island 2 is 35, Driver San Francisco is 36, Dragon Quest Rocket Slime is 37, Indica is 38, What Remains of Edith Finch is 39, Alba is in 40th, with Dead Rising, the remake in 41, and Skate in 42.
It's a nice little spot for it. Yeah.
Claps for them. Yeah. And coming up, hello, Oliver Guy here, live from the editing room. After we finished recording, we basically changed the schedule. So what I previously recorded and said was coming up is now in fact wrong. What's happening is at the moment, I'm going away for a week. Then Joe's going away for a week. And then in October, we are going away to Japan together for 10 days and basically decided that trying to do Hitman and trying to do Enter the Gungeon at the same time and record them both earlier than usual in order to fit them in, as long as us being away for 3 weeks, is too complicated. So what we're going to do instead is on the 3rd of October, Enter the Gungeon is going to come out. And then October, we're just going to skip because we're going to be in Japan. And when the episodes are normally being recorded and edited and coming out is the exact time that we're away. So we're just going to skip October for now. Extra credit listeners on Patreon, nothing changes for you. We'll keep up with the extra credit episodes for you. Cool. Cheers, everyone. But Andy, thank you very much for joining us and introducing us to Alba as well.
I hope you enjoyed it. You did. And this list of games is the breadth of it. Just to mention while we're here, it's really good. There's a lot like doing the database. I see a lot of games, and a lot of the games that I wouldn't expect to be here are here, like Hero Blaster. I wouldn't expect that to pop into this. So I like it. As someone who spends all day searching for kind of the unusual, underrated games, you've got a lot. You're covering a lot of really good ground here. Cool.
Yeah, we often go cult classics as kind of our bread and butter. You know, like a lot of the more popular games are the ones that guests bring on. You know, which is why I was kind of so interested. Why, you as we say, you almost picked Balatro and then you switched to Alba. Like Balatro would have been very much more like the typical game someone would bring on. You know, like
easy to argue for that to be higher. I think Balatro would probably be quite a bit higher. I imagine. I don't know.
Joe's wasn't keen, were you?
No, I try, which is surprising because I'm the one who wanted to slay the Spire in the top 10. So I really thought I was going to love Balatro, but for some reason I'm not sure what it is. It didn't. I enjoyed it, like I didn't dislike it, but I didn't. Everyone else seemed to get obsessed with it, and I didn't.
Okay, I think sometimes if you don't get to it in time, it becomes so popular that it's very off-putting. If it becomes the discourse game, I struggle with that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was in quite early, so I kind of missed some of that kind of stuff. So. Anyway.
Yeah. So we're the hipsters, that's why. We're game hipsters. Have you got anything, obviously Ludocene, have you got anything you'd like to plug?
Yeah, so Ludocene is the thing. I've also, since we last spoke, released a fiction novel. So I could mention that. It's called What Was Hidden, and it's available on Amazon. Shall I give you a short synopsis, very quick?
Have you got it there? Can we see it?
They've all. I don't think I've got.
All sold.
Oh, it's not been hidden, has it?
Yeah, it's What Was Hidden.
What was it?
Yeah, I don't think I've got any like in the right here. I could go and get
Okay,
one.
I'll in the video version. I'll put a picture of it. I'll put a picture of it.
It would be a minute
fine.
if I went to go and get one from the house. Should I do that or? Should I do that?
Yeah, go on.
I can hold it up there.
Yeah, give it its due.
Oh,
so shall I? Do you want me to start again, or should I just cut into a?
yeah, we start the whole thing again. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah.
You were telling us about your new book, and we would like to see it.
So this is the book. What?
It was hidden.
Yeah.
What was hidden? Very nice.
And the basic, the kind of hook is the messages that we write. I don't know, social media or Facebook or emails, and we're like, well, I just can't send that. I'm just going to delete it. It's going to be too explosive, or it'd be,
Right.
Those messages all start appearing in people's inboxes, all kind of overnight, which causes a bit of a problem in terms of volume of data flying around. But then starts connecting characters who wouldn't otherwise be connected, and you would just follow these two characters who. Don't think they want to know each other, but as the course of that goes on, and you kind of write about what you know. So one of the characters is an ultra runner, and the other character is a YouTuber who goes on a press trip to New York.
Nice.
So yeah, but and it's like a 6-year kind of passion project that I've just been tinkering away with, and I just wanted to get it into the world, so just self-published it.
Awesome.
And I really like it. So yeah. That is definitely something to point to. I don't do that enough, so thanks for the opportunity to do that.
No worries. God, you must be so busy all the time.
Well, it's just these things kind of came to a head at what they were like all long stuff, and like Ludocene and this book and other bits and pieces. But it's kind of it just happened to the last sort of 6 months that some of these things have just ended up popping into the world at the same time. But it's a lot of it's
great.
Yeah,
awesome. Big year for you then.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah,
mate, same. Let me just say, the day this podcast comes out, I'm getting married the day after. So
really?
anyone that wants to leave well wishes in the comments, I would greatly appreciate it. Yeah, literally crazy. So crazy. I can't believe I looked at the calendar, I was like, oh my God, the day after. So it's going to be, a big week for me.
Congratulations. Oh wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, how cool.
Sweet. Bonus points things. Extra credit still comes out between every single main bonus points episode. It's Patreon exclusive. It's me and Joe catching up, talking about games and films and stuff we've done in real life. Obra Dimwits, which is our series on the return of the Obra Dinn. By the time this episode comes out,
that's a good name.
Thank you.
Maybe
thank you. By the time this episode comes out, the finale would have just aired of Obra Dimwits, so you can catch up on all of that now. I think that's everything. Unless you got anything, Joe?
No, that's everything. Bonus points world.
Sweet. All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. And thank you for joining us, Andy. And we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, everyone.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.